if you allow me to just pick an artist that I would never listen to, Amr Diab.
Wow. Y'all heard it here first.
I can name you so many Arabic artists that signed major deals, right? Whether globally or regionally. And then suddenly they disappeared and you never hear of them again. But I know their stories. I know that they signed a deal and the second one of their songs blew up and the second one didn't do well, they got shelved. I believe if we continue like this with the same people running the industry, we're not going to have any industry, to be honest.
Yo, welcome everybody back to Shik Shak Shook Ones. It is Friday, February 21st, the date of this recording. And we are recording an hour earlier than we usually do, Deana. And can you please tell the people why we are doing that?
Because I am lucky enough to say that I am seeing Pitbull tonight at the O2 in London. And there's a funny story associated with that, but we'll come to that.
I just want everybody to know this tracks for Deana. Between her love for Muhammad Ramadan and now her love for Pitbull, this makes total sense.
I'm going to be kicked off the podcast soon. They're going to be like, you know what? You shouldn't be involved in music journalism anymore. Sit on the corner. But I have a weakness for people that get me up and dancing. I can't help.
We need to dance. It's a good thing. Deana, we have a special guest today joining us.
We do. We're so lucky, actually, to have this guy on the podcast because when Danny and I first started Shik Shak Shook Ones, the aim was to basically actually be critical about music, bring back authentic journalism, and actually understand what's happening. And unfortunately, the music industry, like many other industries, isn't always pretty. And we are so lucky to say that we have Elia with us today, who is a guy who's done it all, been through the music industry, got out alive, and is being honest about the parts that we aren't always going to see. So, Elia, welcome to Shik Shak Shook Ones.
Finally.
Finally.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm one of your biggest fans. I'm not going to say your biggest fan because you have a lot of fans, but you guys, I actually binge watch everything you put out because you started what kind of triggered me to go the rock way, basically. So the being honest and not just, being one of those people who just go online and be like, yeah, good artist, amazing, all this, blah, blah, blah stuff. And I think this is not how we create a scene. So what you guys did from the start till now, it's, hats off.
That's so kind, Elia.
I'm the lucky guy to be.
Thank you, man. Elia always posts clips and links of our episodes on his socials. It's it really means a lot. So thank you, man. It's an honor to have you here.
Because also away from the serious topics you guys talk about, the way you deliver is very fun. It's not like I'm watching something that gets me boring and it gets me bored. And you always have, you make me giggle every few seconds, so it's.
Let's end the podcast.
We do what we can.
Let's end the episode. I'm happy with that. That was beautiful. Thank you for the compliment. See you later. Elia, please, for those who might not have come across you before, please tell us about your experience when you started out in the industry, what you've done, and anything else that people need to know.
Well, until I left the music industry, I realized I've been doing it for 18 years. So, and just for everybody, don't think I'm in my 40s. I'm not. I didn't even come close to my 40s. But I started on a very young age because my brother used to be in the music industry, and I just followed that path. And I literally did every role in the industry in a way or another, from being, artist manager, even being musician, artist manager, tour manager, promoter, A&R, but I would never call myself A&R. And, you name it, every role in the industry, I wanted to learn. So I would know what kind of person I want to be in the future, or what kind of role I would, stick to. And then eventually I fell in love with, running a company, basically. And this is where I launched a company in Dubai. It was going great. I did everything I wanted to do. And then, yeah, I exited the music industry. That's
And
just a
now,
quick,
Elia,
yeah,
and now for those of y'all who are just listening on your streaming platform, not watching on YouTube, I just want y'all to know Elia's wearing sunglasses because now his future's so bright. He's got to wear shades. You know what I'm saying?
100%. It's not like it's 6 a.m. and I'm jet lagged and I'm not sleeping or anything, you know.
No,
Yeah.
no,
So
no,
no,
not
no,
at all. It's not.
never.
No, 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 no.
I'm
New
gonna
life.
have to say sorry because it's my fault, guys. Like, we do actually
No.
record a bit later. I mean, it would still be 7 a.m. anyway, Elia. That's still so early. But your girl's got Pitbull concert tickets,
100%,
and
100%,
he is one of the
100%,
believe
people that
this.
I have to see before I die.
100%.
And
I totally understand that. You know, if I have a favorite artist that is playing like next to my house, I would have canceled on you guys. Just sorry, you know. But yeah,
whoa. I would never. I have boundaries. And since you guys made fun of my Pitbull music taste, well, actually, Danny, you did. Let's test yours, Elia, before we dive into this and really get into the nitty gritty. Tell me about a song you can't stop listening to.
a song that I cannot. Stormzy, Toxic Trait.
Ooh, that's a great song.
That's every day when I start a playlist. Whatever playlist I'm starting, whatever genre, whether reggae, rock, metal, hip hop, this is the first track I put in my car or on my phone. Always.
What is a track that would never make your playlist, like ever?
Pitbull.
That would never make my playlist. Wow, there's a lot. I would say
Pick an Arab artist, Elia. Let's go. Come on.
you want beef, huh?
I always want beef.
I would go for, like, usually it's not a track because there's a lot of artists I don't like, but I just pick one track. So if you allow me to just pick an artist that I would never listen to,
Of course.
Amr Diab.
Wow. Y'all heard it here first.
Reaction. I'm waiting for the reaction. I am
Wow.
waiting for the reaction.
Please.
Wait, Amr Diab. Why not? Why Amr Diab?
I was never able to get into his music whatsoever. Like, there was an era. So in my house, I grew up with two sisters, and they used to love Egyptian music a lot, right? And they made me listen to every artist. Like, I literally love every Egyptian artist from the previous era, you know, even now. But I could never, since I was like 8 years old or 9 years old, I could never listen to Amr Diab. It just never hit my ears. It never, like, I tried so many. I've watched his concert many times. I said to myself, maybe he will change my mind. He has something different. Just couldn't. Sorry.
Danny, who's sitting number one behind you right now on your list?
I know, man. I'm speechless. I can't. I mean, but look, even if you like his music or don't like his music, you can't deny the dude's impact in the
definitely.
last century. That's different. Yeah.
The personal taste. I'm not saying the guy didn't do anything. He's a legend in the music industry, but not for me. Like, musically, not for me. He is a good guy. Yeah.
You know, that explains. I'm gonna put you on the spot, Liga. I'm sorry, but that
Please.
explains kind of your maybe, how do I put this nicely? That explains why you may not like this other current Egyptian artist as much as maybe other people do, because of how much he references and brings that Amr Diab style into his music.
Million
I'm talking
percent.
about Too Late.
Talat.
I don't know why you call him Talat, bro. Like, it's too late.
Or the way I call him is a bit harsh. But anyways, why? To tell you why, because there's if you look at this region, there's a lot of talent, like amazing singers or whatever. They never made it past anything because they're imitating already famous artists, whether global or regional. Because you don't want to listen to the same Amr Diab. You don't want to listen to Amr Diab's son. You know what I mean? So if you want to create something, literally create something, like, people tell me nowadays, everybody created all genres, everybody did all the sounds and everything. No, that's not true. You can still be authentic to the culture where you come from. Like, I know artists that created music, let's say in UK, and they made it culturally based on their street rather than the country or the city or whatever, and it worked. So to have an artist like whatever, Too Late or another artist, to create something that has been already done for many decades and years, I don't think, I'm not saying that person or any artist are not good. Maybe they're super talented, but it's taking from the actual talent that we should be exporting.
Who is an artist that you think is doing that currently? I'm curious. Like, when you talk about people who are authentically representing their street or their culture or their community or what have you, what is there an artist that comes to mind for you that's like, this
There's a
person
lot.
consistently is doing? Yeah.
There's a lot, but in the recent events in the region, like Saint Laurent is doing a good job in promoting, the culture where he's coming from. Wiggs, he tried different cultures, different sounds, and it's working for him. These two, I just on top of my head. Obviously, you're putting me on the spot, but yeah, like, I listen to them, and I'm listening to something totally new and different. If you listen to old Palestinian artists, they don't sound like Saint Laurent at all. Like, at least the ones I heard. Same goes to Wiggs. When he started blowing up, I wasn't into Arabic rap in the first place. And when I started tapping into it, I started understanding that it's something that we should be proud of, that we created a genre or a culture out of nothing. There was no blueprint. So that's my take on just being original and just trying to represent where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You mentioned Wiggs, and now I have to bring this up real
I knew
quick.
you were going to do this. I knew you were going to do this, Danny.
Did all of us listen to his recent EP?
I honestly didn't have the time yet to listen to it because I'm traveling nonstop. But I would like to hear both of your opinions, because I feel there's mixed feelings here.
There
Deana,
is.
by all means, defend your Egyptian brethren.
Oh, okay, Elia, there's this conspiracy that Danny is insisting on running, that I'm biased if it's an Egyptian artist, that I'm just going to be excellent, which is so not true. However, on this occasion, I am a little bit disappointed, just because I think there was such a long gap from when he was at his peak, and he came to London for his first his debut concert, and there was so much hype, and at the time El Bacht came out, so everyone was really excited, and I think he really put himself in a specific position. This is if I'm being super critical, by the way. So I think because there's been a gap since he's released new music, I was expecting he's in the studio cooking, he's about to drop something insane. And I felt I like it, but I don't love it. I'm not going to be go listen to Wiggs' EP right this second. But I also think I'm being harsh because I've been waiting for a while. When super fans wait for their favorite artist to drop an album or something, and then it's oh, this is what you made us wait for. That's how I felt, basically.
I'll wait for Danny's take.
Danny's in for it.
Yeah. I'm going to be super honest. I think part of it is that timing, that anticipation of waiting for something in a full-length form from Wiggs that's not just a bunch of singles. I will say what I liked is that he returned to rap. But if I put that up against his rap catalog, this felt more like unfinished demos from 2020 that were released in an EP. And what I mean by that is it doesn't feel fully fleshed out. The sound feels a little bit outdated. And the problem that I think Wiggs is facing is that everybody else caught up to him. Wiggs was for a while just a kind of a cut above the rest of the scene. Right. Everyone else, not in Egypt, outside of Egypt, has kind of caught up to that space. There's more attention on hip hop now. There's more investment in hip hop artists now. Much more, better quality rap, I guess and that's what Wiggs is facing. And part of me thinks that Wiggs kind of rested on his laurels, thinking, well, I'm Wiggs, people are going to listen to this anyway. And you
Wow.
know, he's got. I'm just being real. Like I like Wiggs's
That's
like.
interesting.
Listen, man, because like his rap when he came out in 2020, like really like at his height, kind of that rap felt fresh. Like Dora Gay was like, man, that was something I never heard. I was like, you
Yeah.
are upset and you're coming in lyrically and like you're dissing Muhammad Ramadan, which I'm just like,
I
this is
do.
incredible. Like, I know, bro, and I don't mean to keep calling out Muhammad Ramadan like that, but like, let's just be real. You know, like
Yeah,
stuff
it
like
was.
this is like even the stuff he did with Grande Toto, like whatever, like these collabs that he had, Lemuni with Small X, like there was a different energy. This one, I was like, it's there, but it's not fully there. Like something feels unfinished. So it's not, to me, I would give it like an incomplete. I wouldn't say like it's a terrible EP. I would just say, you know what, this kind of feels like when Kendrick released his unfinished demos like a few years back. That's kind of what this feels like.
Do you not think it will grow on you? How many times have you listened to the EP?
I've listened to it twice through now.
Okay.
And it's hard, but it's hard for me for that to grow on me when Stormy comes out with an EP, and I'm like, man, he's continuing his run. Like
Yeah,
he's
I
still
get that.
pushing stuff. Or you know, Perry drops an EP and it's all R&B and it's totally different from what she's done. I'm like, at least it's different and it's original. It sounds interesting. You know, all these other artists are coming through and breaking through in that way, and I want Wiggs. Now I know Wiggs. You know, I've heard rumblings of an album coming, like a more fully fleshed out project. So I'm curious what that'll sound like. But this kind of fell flat for me. The EP.
I don't know if Wiggs would be silly enough to kind of just drop something to try and stay relevant, though. So I wonder if it's like, it feels a bit more gritty. This idea that you have that it's incomplete might just be him, as you said, kind of getting people ready for that album. But I don't think he's silly enough in his career to just chuck something out and be like, oh, hopefully it'll be fine because I'm Wiggs. I could be wrong. I don't know him as a human being. I could be wrong.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you, like not the story, but I tell you why artists do this from a different perspective from what you guys are seeing it. Because I've seen this before, even with international artists. So first of all, whether fans or not fans or just people that follows, you know, the artist or whatever, we miss a very important point that is an artist is a human, right? So they feel, they go through emotions, they go through a lot of things in life. We would never know what they're going through, right? So let's take Wiggs, for example, and I'm just talking, you know, out of what I see as in front of me. The events in the Middle East that happened the past year or so, he was very embedded in it, right? So that
100%.
alone puts an artist in a different mentality, different mindset, that if I'm going to the studio, I want to put my heart into it and what I'm feeling right now. It's not what my fans are. And not to forget, Wiggs fans are way different, whether age, whether some of them, they love his rap, other they love the, you know, the melody stuff and so on and so forth. So artists come out with these one-offs or, you know, drops because either they're frustrated, either they're emotionally going through something that is, you know, very bad. But also, some of them, they drop it because they're very happy. I'm not saying Wiggs is going through that, but I'm just assuming the events that, you know, I follow him. We all follow him on social media. He was very embedded in the situation that, you know, happened in the Middle East on every, you know, in every country. And 100%, if he's going into the studio, he's not going to talk about love. He's not going to talk about, you know, things that we hope that he would do. Even for me, I would love him to just, you know, go full on rap, you know, do some drill, etc., etc. But because I've seen a lot of artists go through this, I stopped expecting from artists, you know, long time ago. So I'm sure if I listen to the album, I have a lot of questions, but not why he dropped it. It's more like maybe the quality needs to be better or the production needs to be better, etc., etc. But your point of view is accurate, but I see it from a fan perspective more than a professional perspective. So this is my take on why would artists like Wiggs go through this or drop something that is weird for some, but great for others.
Honestly, Elia, that's helpful because I think oftentimes when we're evaluating or listening to things, we don't always know that context. Or for Deana and I in particular, we know that context, but we cannot share it. It's private information, and we have to then, you know, be very mindful and respectful of that sort of situation for the artist.
I've been in a situation. I don't want to cut you off, but just to finish the point, I've been in a
No,
situation
please.
where I'm like even touring with an artist, and they have so many shows, whether in Europe or Asia, and they just reach half mid of the tour, and they were like, "I don't want to do it anymore." And
Wow.
there's nothing you
Yeah.
can do about it because we've seen it with Avicii, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to remind people that artists are actual humans. That one day they're gonna come out and be like, get out of my life, or I will get out of your life. And we've seen it with so many artists. So yeah, it comes down to what they're feeling in that moment when they stepped into the studio. Now, and there's another reason also for this, is just to quick, I don't want to stretch the topic,
No,
but
keep going.
some artists, they just want to drop, right? Because they made their fans wait a lot. They just go into the studio and they feel like they're forced to give somebody, because the fans, they're they're not, as much as people think, and like, if he has a fan base or she has a fan base, that's great, and they will stick to them. Fans are technically the most horrible tool for any psychological issue that goes in the industry, or any industry, but even in Hollywood and movies and whatever. So expectations are very high, and when you have millions of followers, they want you to drop songs every day,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
he got pressured by the fans and by, I don't know, media and whatever. He's like, you guys, you know what, this is what I'm feeling, take this album, I don't care if you're gonna like it or not. They can play the card of the fu, so yeah.
I love that you said that, Eliana. Actually, I think it segues perfectly into the whole reason you're on the episode today. You have such an incredible insight with all your experience and all the different capacities you've worked in. Tell us like a bit more about things that us as fans or journalists or consumers don't take into consideration. Like, tell us more about the artist experience and, unfortunately, the ugly side as well.
You guys want to be canceled, huh?
Yeah.
They can't cancel us. They can try. Nobody can cancel us.
We're gonna talk about the cancellation thing, but the industry has always been a tough environment and tough place for anybody, and not just artists or musicians, even the people, like the employees of big companies, and even managers and so on and so forth. But we reached an era now where music is being consumed on a much higher level than before. Like before, if you're a fan, there's we had two type of fans, like fans that had money and they would purchase every CD you have on vinyl and whatever, and fans that would save up money just to watch you live. And you have the fans in the middle where they do everything, right? So it was very saturated. Let me use this word, even it's not in the right place, but it was very saturated when it comes to labels, artists, whatever. Nowadays, because everybody's accessing music differently, and you can access it anywhere even if you're in the Amazons, you can still access music and stuff. And that created something that people didn't realize. That created a machine to generate more money than the previous life that we know in the music industry. So, and every year we hear that the music industry is becoming like number one industry in the world in revenues and blah blah blah. And some people love that, I'm in the industry and my industry is top, but that created a lot of dark side of the industry, which we all grew up knowing. Artists get into this machine and they become robots to create music. But now it's much harder, because you have only one choice to make. You want to make it a global, you sign a deal, and the second you question this deal, knowing that you didn't read the contract, but after a while you start reading your contract, and because you're feeling like you don't want to do one thing, and whoever is representing the label or the management, they come and tell you, no, you will do it. You will do it, and you have no other choice. So the idea of somebody constantly, every day, telling you you're not allowed to feel, or you're not allowed to do some stuff that you love to do, it's very hard. It's a bullying without calling it bullying. You know what I mean? Or harassment without calling it harassment, because you are put in a perspective that you owe some people money. Even if you don't owe anybody money, you will still need to make money because your lifestyle must be as high as your status in the industry. So for you to be that person all the time, you have to generate money. So you have to play the game. And if you don't play the game, and we've seen it even in the region, in the MENA region, if you don't play the game, and when I say game, again, it's not one person or one company, it's whoever is running specific thing, whether you need the streaming platforms, they can play a game with you. If you do, I'm being very transparent here, right? If you fight any editorial person in any streaming platform, logically speaking, like I'm talking humans and emotions, do you think this editorial will be forced to put you on a playlist? No, he will create whatever he wants to create for their corporate, not to put you, because people feel, right, if I don't like you, immediately I'm hating whatever you're going to do. So I'm going to come up with so many excuses for you not to be on the cover of a playlist, or you not to be on playlist, or whatever. That's a topic I never talked about, but we call them gatekeepers in general, but I mean, they're beyond, they're worse than executive and labels, Again, there's a lot of amazing people, but we feel if I hate somebody, I will not help them, as simple as it is, unless, whatever, some manager above them, they love this artist, they will force it. But again, this is using your power, and it shouldn't be the case. It should be organic. A good music, a good artist should be playlisted and should be pushed. And then that's one issue that people don't realize. And then you have another issue. So we talked about signing deal that you don't read, and then when you start reading, you become depressed, and then to an extent, either if you grow big, you commit suicide, or you just be in debt for the rest of your life. This is how it is. This is how it ends usually. I've never heard a good story of an artist, retiring, unless they're in like 80s, you know what I mean? So labels and contracts, streaming platforms, I don't know, you want to talk about how the region is working? We can talk about the media, that not just the regional, international media is a big tool in a hit or miss of any talent, right? So another issue that we go through now is there's somebody that is famous in making an artist go big, right? One mistake, or he heard from somebody that this artist is not okay to deal with, or they're not cool to work with, you're immediately going to be shelved. Nobody's going to tell you why. Nobody's going to tell you how. There's people that, play chess, and they would love to avoid a conversation or an argument more than fixing something and actually believing in an artist. Because for them, not everybody in the industry, as an employee, they go into their job thinking, this is my job, I have to do it, and I'm getting my salary at the end of the month. And sure, I love one artist and I hate the other, but I am not going to go out of my way to get fired because I believe in an artist, or I believe that this artist or a friend of mine is going to make it, right? So I hear it all the time in every panel. I'm so passionate about music business. I love this industry. I love this and that. I promise you, if they all work for me and I fire one of them and they don't have any jobs elsewhere, ask them if they still love the music industry or not, or they love this artist or not. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Again, it's in every industry. But why we're talking about this now is that I would love people to actually read and understand the psychology and the mental health that people in every industry go through. So when you question an artist, or when you question why this artist not releasing, or why they're not dropping, or whatever, I can name you so many Arabic artists that signed major deals, right, whether globally or regionally, and then suddenly they disappeared and you never hear of them again. But I know their stories. I know that they signed a deal, and the second day one of their songs blew up and the second one didn't do well, they got shelved. And when you get shelved, it's a very harsh word, but when you get shelved, there's no comeback. There's whatever you do in real life, somebody's taking 100% of your income, whatever you do, because that's the contract, how it is. Until you pay me back my money, I don't care if you make music or not. So I'm not going to spend more money on you because I already spent, I don't know, $500,000 or $100,000. So if you're not bringing me back this money in whatever period I'm putting, you're going to be shelved. Again, being shelved is way worse than being canceled from the industry. It's you must exist as an artist because you have a fan base, but you're not allowed to do anything that doesn't make you money, so much money that the label has to take from you because you're in debt, you know? So yeah, these are like just on top of my head that people miss when they enter this industry a lot, you know? We can talk about other stuff, but these, for me, they all follow the common issue, which is the psychology behind how to deal with people and how to manipulate people. So there's two different worlds. If somebody is in love with you in the industry, they will make you the most famous person ever. They don't like you, good luck. Again, it's all about who takes a role and who leads and who runs the show. So people who are running the Middle East now, honestly, I cannot even think of one person that is doing good for the industry or any artist. I swear, I'm not being, I'm not being a
Damn.
hater. I'm not being a
That's
hater. I'm not. But to correct myself somewhere, a lot of people, a lot of these like 6 or 10 people came, whether they came from outside or they were in the region, they came with good intentions, amazing intentions. I sat with them when they came, when they started working, and they were the best people to run the industry. But again, they're employees or they're owners of a company that needs money to operate and needs to keep their roles to be able to, they think we will change the industry. But everybody, every single, you know them. I don't need to mention anybody, right? You know everybody that, you know, made the headlines of, I made headlines of, I wanted to change this and that and whatever. I left. Other people stayed and did the worst that you could do. I believe if we continue like this with the same people running the industry, we're not going to have any industry, to be honest.
That's so sad.
Wow. All right, well, that's the end of the episode. Thanks, everyone.
By the
No,
way,
just play.
like guys, like whatever I'm saying, like if you don't agree with me or you have receipts that it says otherwise, please. Like I've been very loud, even on my previous podcast, which is the first one I did before this. Like I went out and I asked people, please, like catch something from this podcast, from this episode, and tell me you are wrong. This is the right way. I haven't received any.
No,
I mean, I'll say this, like from my vantage point, obviously, Elia, you've been embedded from the different side of things, and you've been embedded longer. From my vantage point, from some of the folks that I've interacted with, that intention is still there. Like to me, I want to think that that good intention is still there, that they are actually genuinely still trying. And so that's where I might personally push back. Now, you might know more context or know more about what's happening than I do, right? And so I grant you that. I wonder. Yeah, go
You're
ahead.
100% right. The reason why I did not mention what you just mentioned, because when you're an employee, and we're talking about employees in certain companies because they're the ones who's running the show mostly, not the independent ones. They will, every single time they want to make a decision, a good one, they have to get an approval, right? And that approval is, as I'm seeing it so far in this region, it's 80 or 90% is a no. So the person you're talking about being good is, they exist. They can they change something in the industry or they can move something? I don't think so. I don't think so. That's why we're talking about the 10 people that are running the show, right?
yeah. I'm not shocked about what I'm hearing because I don't want to generalize, but this is also kind of how the Arab world operates. It's always a wasta. So you could be the most talented or the most credible or the most qualified person for something, but if someone else has a wasta, they're taking that role. Just even ignore music. That's something I've learned. In the Arab world, you really need to have a backing to get anywhere. And it's such a shame because Danny and I are always speaking about like, oh, how can we help independent artists? We even mentioned about potentially doing like a workshop for people to share practices and help each other, because it does feel lonely. Everyone's competing with everyone. But sometimes when you hear this, it's like the game is rigged. How do you encourage a scene that is so diverse and so talented? There's so many amazing people that are not being marketed. How do you encourage these people to keep going and not lose faith? Because you can hear something like that and be like, well, why am I bothering?
What's the point? Yeah.
Look, before my previous episode with 963,
Which we're going to get to.
Yeah. I know how to transition quickly from.
Danny knows how to transition, all right? Back off.
Basically, before this episode, I was not hopeful that, because you know, I was just thinking of the no's, you know, the facts and the numbers and whatever. But I noticed something very great after the episode was out. I received so many messages. I think this is the most I've ever received DMs in my entire life. And there was some people that gave me hope big time, whether most of them are independent, right? And two kinds of people, just to be fair, because some of them are musicians and others are not. Some people actually told me, which I said, no, don't do that. Like it's far beyond what you're doing. And these people told me, we just unsubscribed from every streaming platform, right? In their mind, they're doing great for their own artist. Why? Because most fans, they listen to music. Obviously, they love listening to music, but they think also, oh, I'm getting money into the artist's pocket. So in their mind, the artist is not getting what they're getting. So it starts, usually people say the issue starts from labels. It is in a way or another, because they own most of the things. Like Universal own most of, you know, not most, but Spotify and so on. So if you want to go down the rabbit hole, the majors own most of everything that is not just labels, right? So I personally, we fought this fight before, decades ago, fighting the labels and fighting whatever. You know, when I used to do rock and metal, only metal labels used to thrive in a way that we will do everything against the industry. They were rebels, you know. They were never part of a major label. They've done it all, you know. They have hardcore fans. They made the right money, etc., etc. But we reached the digital era where the major labels bought every metal label existed, you know. So goes to hip hop, and so goes to reggae and everything. The issue is no longer the label, because you can never fight. Whatever people say, we will fight them, blah, blah, blah. No, you as a person. So these people gave me hope and they gave me an idea that when you unsubscribe from streaming platforms, and let's say we killed the streaming platforms, so you killed a majority of income for the people that are running the show. Again, this is just a theory that I started coming up with it from after the podcast, from people's, you know, quoting people saying, no, I believe I should stop investing in streaming platforms and start buying CDs, which today you did, Danny, you know, and that proved my point, or my theory. Exactly. That proved my theory, because you first just paid, I don't know, it's being sold at $10. You just paid an artist as 1 million streams, for example, I'm saying, you know. If an artist getting 1 million streams in Iraq, he doesn't even see the $10, you know. But you just paid an artist a big chunk of his, you know, money, spendings, costs, debts, tours, whatever. So it starts from there. Now, am I building a whole bigger theory? I don't know, but I'm being honest with you. I wasn't hopeful at all. Like I just wanted to give up on this and just move on with my life. But these people triggered something in me. How to change the industry is no longer the fight that we fight against labels. You will never fight. You will never win this fight. You will start fighting the sources that is bringing money to the table. Whether you don't show up to concerts, whether you don't buy subscriptions, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of artists that are very close to doing this, which is, one of them is very loud. I love him so much, and I started most of my career with him, Snoop Dogg. In every interview, he's very loud on, that's the reason why he bought his catalog and why he bought his label and everything, because he wanted to control the 100% income. right? So he doesn't believe in streaming platforms at all. He feels that he's deceived. And so many artists, but they cannot take a move alone, right? You need to get the crowd and the fans to understand the step, and then the artist will step forward. Am I seeing it happening? Honestly, I don't know. It's a theory that has been in my mind for a week.
That's a longer, yeah. Like to me, that's going to be a much longer
Yeah,
thing that may not even happen in our lifetime. I mean, I don't know.
million
And
percent,
the
million
other
percent.
thing, honestly, is that, you know, to make such a move, you would have to make it in a way, quote unquote, inconvenient, because CDs are not nearly as accessible as a streaming platform. Like I have the entire global world's catalog at the tip of my fingertips, right? Whereas I have to go out to a store, buy a CD, have a CD player, which I personally did. And that's a shout out to Narcy, because Narcy really like changed my whole perspective with his album. But like, I'm now back to physical music because I simply don't want an algorithm telling me what I should and shouldn't listen to. And, you know, in some cases, the algorithm has kept me in a bubble, and I miss like the full-fledged experience of, wow, this is what an artist was trying to do from top to bottom. Here's a story that this artist was trying to tell. It's a completely different listening experience when you are going into the labor of buying a CD, unwrapping the CD, putting the CD in a CD player, hooking up your headphones to the CD player, pressing play, then sitting with it, versus like tap, tap, boom, you're there. You know, like it feels more like you have a relationship with that artist and with the art that they're trying to create, versus it. You know, the thing that bothers me is people just see this now as content. I mean, I hate, like, I mean, Spotify CEO, shout out to Daniel Egg, man. That dude came out and said, like, this is all content. These are content creators. Like, that's horrible. That's horrible to ever look at artists as content creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we
they're
call
not making
them
money.
and we call them in a different place in the industry, influencers as well, because we make money from, you know, promoting brands.
100%.
We could get really deep about this, because I feel like Danny and probably you too, Elia, like there's different relationships with different artists in terms of, there's some artists that make you like sit in a room and just zone out and listen and feel something. But there are also artists that make you get up, I want to shake it, right? I feel like
There we
everyone's
go.
different place. I'm not talking about me.
Transition into Muhammad Ramadan, Deana. Let's go.
No. I just can't. I get it, and I actually love this concept of, oh, they're influencers and content creators. I love it in the sense of the way you've said it, not the actual impact of it, because it is so much pressure to be like, drop something, and not everyone actually sits down to listen to an album. They'll look for like what's trending and what's super popular, and that's how they consume music. So you guys and me, to a level, we're still quite deep in that we really want to feel something, but some people don't. Some people just want to consume.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, Deana, you and I are guilty of this too.
You know, I'll tell you, and I'll trigger a conversation here because of this. You know, when we reached now a level of the one click or the 1 second or the whatever bullshit that we're going through, you know why? Because we living in the TikTok effect. Okay?
Yes. Yeah.
The biggest issue, whether in the music industry or in the content creator ecosystem, is this 1 second thing or 3 seconds bullshit and whatever, you know. This is such a I call it micromanagement from the fans and the followers, to be honest. Like if the person I'm following doesn't attract me in 3 seconds, move on. So we made our life based on that. I'm not saying TikTok made it out. That's why I called it the TikTok effect, because the era is very fast now and everything, which is not bad, but it has more damages than good on a long run. For example, when you bought the CD, you bought it as a fan, right? But there's a lot of ways for you not to leave your chair, and you will get the CD to your house with, like, I remember when we were shifting towards streaming and I was buying CDs, I have a very big collection of CDs. I started receiving the CD from the States or whatever with a USB on it, right? Or with a card where I just, tap it and it takes me to the artist website where I put my code of my CD and I just listen to it. Now, obviously, that eliminates that I cannot switch to other artists. But I mean, if you have this technology, you can just adapt to it and move it the way you want to move it, or somebody just come up and do something similar than that. So that being said, it's again, it's a very long topic that we can go down and get deeper and deeper. But I believe in making change, and there's always solution for everything.
I actually love that you've not burnt yourself out completely and thought, I want to be detached from the industry. A lot of people can be pushed to that. I think I've even been almost pushed to that where I'm like, I don't want to be involved. Tell us a bit more like about why you have that passion. And I know you were recently on a podcast and Danny sent it to me straight away. So Danny, tell us a bit more about that and let's go through that.
Yeah, so for those of y'all listening and may not know the context, we keep referring to this podcast. It's the 963 podcast. So shout out to 963. It's a great podcast. Y'all should really check it out. The interviews are incredible. They're really in depth. Elia was recently on it, and Elia was, let's just say, incredibly transparent with some of the inner workings of the industry and some of his experiences and all of that, to the point where, unfortunately, the episode only saw the light of day for maybe like a day and a half, and then it was taken down for external reasons. So Elia, with that, we're here to address this podcast a little bit.
Look,
in the message that I think you all put up on social media, a lot of it said, people are not ready to hear this side yet, and maybe we aren't ready for the open conversation. And Deana and I, like, we're trying to push that open conversation, particularly in the lane of music criticism and what that means, and just being a little bit more transparent with how we feel about a certain artist or song or album or whatever. Do you feel like, I mean, I want you to have your space now to say what you want to say since that happened.
Yeah.
So a lot of people messaged me after, even way more than when I dropped the episode, asking what the hell happened and everything. Just so to put it straight, nobody reached out to me personally because people are afraid from my tongue, so they would never come and tell me something. So the reason why I never mentioned the issue behind taking down the episode is that it's not my story to tell, right? So I'm not the one who, people reach out to me and they told me to do it. 963, for whatever reason in the future wants to come out then and wants to talk about it, it's up to him. It's not my story to tell or the reasons behind it. If it was my podcast, I would have definitely talked about it, but I know, people have reasons. And when I had the talk with him, and I'm like, immediately I said, cool, let's move on. Let's do it. I didn't even question it. I didn't even, I knew from the first phrase when he sent me, I immediately knew, and I'm like, let's go. Now, people ask why. A lot of people didn't watch the episode. The issue with the episode is not me talking about the music industry as a bad industry. It's more about specifically because I was generalizing a lot, but in the same sense, I was talking about the Middle East region or the MENA region. And certain people in the industry, why they didn't like it. And I knew the stories that, people went to their offices, in particularly the companies I mentioned, they went to the offices and they started asking, how do we fight this, and how do we let this go away? And the reason, it's not because I talked bad about them, even though I know I didn't. If you watch the episode, I never talked bad. I only mentioned numbers that are not real, that people promote a lot, in the sense of whether I mentioned Angami, whether I mentioned Billboard, whether I mentioned all these corporates. And the thing is, the numbers and the conversation and the information I shared, it's a public information. Like, it's out there, whether on the corporate website or whether on social media or whatever. The issue that they didn't like, that I put them on spot and I made it out there, So in their books, they have to show numbers, every company. But if you actually look in, like if you search now these numbers, you would never find them. But they're there. You have to see it. The issue is that the hidden stuff that goes behind things that we don't talk about, or they don't want to mention to you as a fan or as an artist or as a label or whatever, just to keep it running and say we are the best, we are the first, we are the number one, we are the most streamed, we are the blah blah blah, because it sounds cool, you know, it sounds great. But if you actually, like, if you're intrigued in any point, you woke up and be like how the region is actually moving, you will start seeing numbers that is very scary, you know. It's not like small numbers. It's like numbers from companies you've supported all your life, to see it growing globally. And you as a person from Middle East, you're being represented wrong. And you know, the conversations I have with Western people, like looking at the region, they laugh. They laugh. Like, sorry, I'm mentioning Amr Diab again, but this is a very important part of what we have as an issue. He's a great artist with maximum fan base, but we need to stop lying to people abroad. Forget the MENA, saying Amr Diab is the biggest artist or most streamed, because I've been in a room when I said this because I believed it, and people pulled out his numbers and they were like, "Really? Is your?" At some point, I remember he had 1.3 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and that guy and team with him in a major label, they were like, "Really? That's your biggest Middle Eastern artist?" And I'm like, I felt like small bit of it, and this is where I
Yeah, but
went
Elia,
back.
can I interrupt you very quickly, like, if
Yeah.
you don't mind? How much of this has to do with the way we consume music? Because yes, like perhaps the digital platforms, the numbers for him may not be where we think they probably should be, considering his stature. How much of that has to do with the fact that, you know, people still rely on YouTube because it's free, or people still use CDs or cassettes, or people still use the physical media part of it to listen to them, or they're not listening? Like, that's the
That's
Western part of it is very like that's a Western thing. Like, we are all in on
million
streaming in a
percent,
way that,
because
yeah,
if you have this kind of data, India and Asia will be number one for decades. You know,
right,
if you
right.
go down that rabbit hole of getting this data that is not collected in other parts of, you know, the world, India would be number one, China, Japan would be, you know, following, so on and so forth. The issue is that when we start talking about the Middle East region, we were growing in a most organic way during COVID and after COVID for a year or so, because people are start to get into the idea of YouTube is not the only thing. Maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. Some of them, they just gave up on streaming platforms and they kept listening to YouTube. But it created, so when you hear the titles of most streamed or first or whatever, you as a fan or whatever, you don't question these things, you know. But me as an industry person, yeah.
Well, me and
We just
Deana, we question those things because we've had episodes. I mean, because we've had episodes where we've criticized the whole "I'm the first XYZ." I mean, I can sit
But
here and say I'm the first Lebanese American to host a podcast on afikra, and even then, that's probably not true. But like, you know, like that kind of thing, I could make up a stat and make myself the first any day.
million
but
percent. That's why I'm
but
on the podcast.
yeah, Elia was mentioning though, that's us. What about the fans that just consume music?
Yeah.
It's
which is
consumers.
which is not wrong to be blinded, you know, and just be a blinded fan. It's not wrong. Before we were born, it has existed long time ago and everything. But when you, in our region, if you look at MENA region and you start naming the people that actually come, like they're very professional and they have the knowledge and the experience to run an industry or a certain department or a company, they're very, very small. But now it's small. Before COVID, up to COVID, we had so many people that could have made this industry. Literally, at the time we started to hear MENA region is going to be the number one market in the world. And we were there. We were extremely there because people were doing their job, their homework, they're getting the right data, they picked the right artist, so on and so forth. Then I know many people left the region and they focused whether on different things in the music or they just left the music industry. So we ended up with people that are very passionate about the industry. They took roles, first role as a manager, whatever manager is just not the right way to deal in any industry or to move forward with any industry that is growing super fast. We talk about developing a whole market. You cannot develop it in 1 year and then you call yourself the biggest market in the world. Not possible, even if you're in oil business. So why I'm mentioning this, because these titles don't help in terms of growing this market. In fact, it ruined this market because the people that look, I'll give you an example. In 21, when we were still the biggest market, fastest growing market in the world, I've been in rooms where a lot of people that move, they play chess within the industry. They decide which needs to be doing and what needs to be doing and who needs to move this and that. And the thing is, they said, and I remember, and by the way, if anybody wants to argue with me, I have receipts, right? These are not coming from
God.
from my, and I am now, if you actually like, you go deep into what I do now as a job and work, I work with these people and I am shareholder with these people. So you will immediately know who I sat down with, which companies I sat down with. You know what I mean? So that being said, I just want people to say, he's bullshitting and he doesn't know what he's saying, whatever. That happens, bro. That happens when major players sit in a room and they decide how they want to move forward. When Africa music and Afrobeat came out, do you think one artist did that? Of course not. It's the volume of labels that put on money in Africa. And most of the people and most of the artists that made it globally, they moved to US. Right? So we come to the MENA region. We were on the right track. I promise you, we were on the right track. But when you flop immediately after 2021 or after end of 2022 and your numbers go 30% below what you were hoping that the 30% would be more because we want to invest in the region, you're not going to get the support. I believe that's going to happen in the future. Maybe it's not our generation, but now you had a big chance for artists to grow faster than we are seeing them growing, companies out of this region to reach global market. But unfortunately, we lack the experience of people running these roles in the region. Like, again, in the podcast that we go back to the podcast, I mentioned this topic a lot. When I hire you, Danny, as a journalist, I expect you to do your job. And more than that, right? You're going to do it in the most successful, professional way. I'm paying you money to do your job, right? If you flop, it's a major disaster because I'm hiring a professional person, right? You cannot flop. It's your career, it's your profession. If I'm hiring somebody with less than a year experience and I put them as artist relations manager, or I put them as A&R, and now everybody's A&R, you already immediately lost a year of experience because you need to teach this person, okay? Well, you're in that environment of developing a career, an artist or whatever, you can't afford a year. We go back to the TikTok effect, right? If you can't do something in a very certain, small, fast way time, you're not going to be able to do it ever. So we ended up between 2023 and 2024 with people learning the music industry. And people that are learning in the music industry, they're just coming up with decisions and ideas and I don't know what. And I sit with all of them and I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Until now, and prove me wrong, 90% of the music industry people in the region and artists and musicians don't know what publishing is.
I also think that they don't know the difference between PR and journalism. There's also confusion. They think that journalism is PR and PR is journalism.
They don't know. I've been in with artists. I'm like, how much you make from streaming? He's like, or she's like, let's say $500 a month. Okay. I go through my connections and I go down the rabbit hole of previous publishing and how much they could have made from, because everything is is noted down in the industry. So no song is being used without somebody's getting paid. But you only get paid if you are signed to a collection society or a publishing company or whatever. And I give them the numbers of how much money they lost. And they look at it and be like, I made $3,000 a month. How? So away from people that are incompetent in their jobs, we lack knowledge in the region. Not everybody can be an artist manager. Not everybody can be A&R. Not everybody can be CEO. As simple as it is. For me, it took me 18 years going through 15 different roles to know what I want. And so many like me. And Danny, for you, I'm sure you didn't jump on the first opportunity to be a journalist, or Deana, you didn't jump on doing, we went through experiences and knowledge and everything, right? People tell me, how did you leave the music industry? Being geek myself, I just learned so much, so many other skills and jobs that I could do in my life because I was intrigued. Even though all my life I've been like, only music, I'm going to do it. That's it. I'm never going to do anything else. But I'm so thankful for everything I went out of my way to learn, because it's now coming back to me to actually, do things that I love that is not music industry. So that's off topic. But what I'm trying to say is we are like the region, we need a whole, I don't know what you want to say. Like I believe we need to put it in a washing machine and just let it.
I mean, what it sounds like, honestly, is we need a little bit more training and education and like
100%.
thoughtful sort of places where people can learn about the different roles, what these different roles entail, how different things operate within the industry, how then things operate within marketing, how things operate within journalism, and like all X, Y, Z. Like we can go on and on, but it sounds like more knowledge-based or teaching-based efforts to do that might be a good step in that direction, so that people feel prepared. And I mean, part of it too, honestly, is that these roles were not nearly as accessible probably as they are now, because for the longest time in our region, like Elia, it was run by Rotana and Mazika and like EMI Publishing, and like that was it. It was just those three, and they were very closely held, and it was very difficult to break in. Like, unless, now it's as if it's like everywhere. So then, oh, well, I can do this. I know how to whatever. And there's a very steep learning curve with that.
But it's funny that you mentioned these companies, because when I started my career, I started looking at labels and companies and stuff. At these companies, if somebody's hired to do a job, they get one chance to do it. I've been in offices where people got fired because they missed, I don't know, like 1 hour of a press release being out. You get what I'm saying? Like, as much as I don't like this mentality of work, but either do your job or just learn other roles that you might be successful in, or like gain knowledge and so on and so forth. Yani, you guys in the industry, tell me one A&R did a great job or took a track from A to Z and made it amazing. I cannot even think of one, because I can think of executive producers for sure, but A&R, these are the things that make me wonder, like who are the people that they think they can just wake up and be like, I don't like this artist, or I don't want to put this artist on a award list, or I don't want to put this artist with this artist in the studio. Like, you're all not qualified to make these decisions, but you do it because you have authority because of your role. But that's yeah.
That's sad. Do you have any like advice then, Elia, since you've seen all the different sides for artists? Because the last thing we want to do is make people listen to this and be like, okay, khalas, there's no point. I know that there's always a solution, whether it comes in 10 years, 20 years, whatever. What kind of advice could you give to artists? What?
Elia's solution is going to be like, get out of the industry.
no, because
I don't believe that.
No, I'm just playing. I'm just messing.
I gave this advice today to somebody here I met in LA. He's an artist. He's a friend, and he was like, how can I make money and just do what I love to do and like without worrying about things? And everything we've done in life, when you grow up, you've always had plan B and C. Whether you're like 7, 8 years old or 10 years old, you want to go play with your friends like football or whatever. If they don't pick you to play football, you're gonna go and try something else, right? We always had this curiosity of building things. So music nowadays is similar like anything you do in life. You are 50-50 in percent in terms of if you're going to make it or not, whether you're in an office or whether you're an artist. If you're going to take the chance all your life and be just an artist or somebody in that specific role, you're shooting yourself in the leg, because nothing lasts forever, first of all. And second of all, it's very dumb not to learn skills and gain knowledge. So my biggest advice is always learn and gain knowledge from things that you don't do in music, like things that is outside the music industry, and you never know what's going to happen. And even if these skills, you're going to use it while you're in the industry, because these skills are going to bring you the money that will fund your artist career or whatever you want to accomplish in life. Because if I'm entering an oil company as an intern or whatever, if I think the salary that's coming every month is going to make me create my own oil companies, no, of course not. I have to go and dig deep and understand what kind of technology I could create in the future to enhance this industry. So I'm just blabbering in terms of like the advice, but that's not not for the music itself. It's more like a human thing. Like most people on planet Earth, all their lives, even the painters or whatever, they never made money from their art until way past their life. How did they survive their lives? They had many things on the side. I forgot the name of the painter, but he used to have a grocery shop, and he became super famous and started selling at the age of 60 or 70. I don't know, but what I'm trying to say is I cannot give an advice specifically for artists, because again, everybody goes through life differently. But I can just give a life advice, which is a common sense thing. Just learn skills, learn things that intrigue you, ask, search, and then you might not like music. Like me, eventually I came out of it and I'm doing what I love now, what I'm doing. So it's not like I got depressed for the rest of my life and I wanted music and it's been beating me up. No.
Any advice for people in decision-making positions or working with artists, or any like certain roles from the region that you'd love people to hear?
If we're talking about media, for example, you guys need to be the forefront of the media industry in the region. Okay, I'm being very honest with you. I'm not just sugarcoating shit. You guys do your job. Like literally, like Danny knows how much I disagree with him on so many things, but I read his articles. And for me, because I come also from, I didn't write articles, but I did interviews with a lot of artists, and I know the technicality that goes through an article. And when I read it, I know he put his heart and time to it. It's not like he's just like most people that are like, with all due respect, whoever is running the media in the region, whether working for Billboard or any publication or whatever, I promise you, they're not putting the time in creating these articles or fact checking whatever they put. None of them. For them, he's coming to the office or she's coming to the office, created a headline and moved on. Who's going to read this? Nobody. But what I'm trying to say is the biggest advice for like executives or companies is to hire people that are hungry for what they want to do, but also put them on a probation to see how much they're willing to learn if they don't have the knowledge. But for me, if I am in 2002 and I'm working in the market such as MENA, I would hire Danny to be the Billboard face of Billboard. You know what I mean? I'm just
Me too.
I don't want to scratch your ego too much, but it's why it's a fact, because you're knowledgeable in what you're doing. Maybe in the office as a whatever general manager of Billboard, maybe you'd suck at it, but because you know your job, you will learn your role and you will succeed in delivering the knowledge that you have to to your employees. And I'm not just saying about Billboard because then you're in the media, but same goes to every label. You know, if you've done so much, like it took me 18 years to be a CEO of a label. And when I got to that role, I knew exactly what I want, how I want it. And I knew how to read contracts, how to tour with artists, how to do how to develop. I've done so much things, and I've never been a CEO before that. But the knowledge I gained all my life allowed me to be behind the desk and be the smart ass that, you know, the people hoped that I would be, you know. But that's the thing. Executive needs to, and that's the last topic I want to mention too much, that in the podcast, I mentioned female representing the industry. And I mentioned why I was talking about this. And I'm not somebody that, you know, we're like, I don't like about like female that, you know, in the industry can talk on behalf of themselves. They don't need me or anybody else. But it ticked me off because the actual people that are putting in the work and doing, you know, amazing work and achievements and goals and whatever, they're not being put on panels. They're not showing up to a TV station interview or, you know, conferences or whatever. They're not. I don't know the reason, you know, maybe, I don't know. But the professional reason is that somebody in an office, I don't know where, is not doing their homework, or they have an agenda, or they hate the speaker. These are the three reasons. There's no other reasons not to get the best in what they do. You know, if you want to hear somebody that is talking about production, I get somebody with track record. If I want to hear somebody talk about, you know, writing for big articles for big publications, I'll get you, Danny. Whatever, you know what I mean? That's the thing that, you know, running a conference is not easy. And I know it, you know, you go down the rabbit hole of who you want to get and what's interesting and who's interesting. But also you need to get the right people to deliver the right message. Like, for example, when you go to Saudi, I stopped going to conferences there because I'm not going to say the same people are on panels, but everybody says the same words. Like, everybody's just repeating the same, you know, cassette. And I'm like, I'm not gaining any knowledge from this. Like, okay, so we've been talking about the region for 4 years. What have we done? Like, seriously, if you are proud of 2-3 people, artists that are making a buzz in the world because they're Arabs, come on.
Yeah, we have to aspire to more a little bit. Yeah.
Come on. The major issue, I see it, I love competition. And people tell me, why you love competition? Because competition allows you, and it makes better talents, and it shows who's good and who's not. So when you are, I don't want to talk like whatever, a specific conference or concert focuses on certain, you know, specific line of artists or people, you're not doing good for the industry. What you're doing is you're creating a night and you're moving on with your life. So in my books, I would create competition. It's the best way to create volume of artists.
Yeah. I mean, this is why Deana and I want to do music criticism, because in a way it's that kind of forcing people to compete with themselves, essentially, or compete with, if we're going to compare, we can compare them to other artists or whatever. Elia, I'm telling you, man, we could probably sit here for like hours talking to you, man. But that's all the time we have for today's episode. Everybody, please make sure to go follow Elia on all his socials, and stream this episode the minute it gets out before it gets canceled. All right, everybody, listen. And I want to give a quick shout out to, speaking of media in the region, let's give a quick shout out to Scene Noise. Seems like they're finally growing a spine. Yes. Anyway, if you've got any questions or comments or feedback, remember, my inbox is closed. Message Deana. Peace out, y'all.